Jarrett, are you the senior member of the team here? You're not.
I probably am.
You're close.
Talking age.
Yeah.
Of this team.
Of this table?
No, this one's older than me by 6 months.
Oh, well, what about Dan, for goodness sake?
Yeah, Dan.
I'm talking this
He's
table.
older than dirt, Dan is. Older than mold.
He got the name there. Well, what I want to share is what a very, very positive effect Dot had on my life. And it's hard for me in some instances to separate Dot from Froman. I mean, they were like an entity, the two of them. There are three things that really impacted me. One was, I thought Dot and Froman modeled what a happy, loving marriage was all about. And I remember Froman driving from Charleston in the Eastern Panhandle all the way down to Charleston on Friday and getting in 2 o'clock in the morning or something. And then on Sunday about 6, driving back. But he wanted to be with her and the family so much that every weekend he took about a 6 or 8 hour drive through the mountain roads to get down there. And that, to me, when I was growing up, I mean, my parents were very happy parents, but I thought, man, that's an example of what marriage ought to be about. And it just was such a positive effect on me, and I'm happy to say I've had 2 wonderful marriages. Unfortunately, both wives are no longer with us, but I think I got a chance, based on what my parents did and based on what Dr. Froman did, to live that same kind of loving, caring, giving relationship. The second thing that I have is, some of you know, I was widowed at 35, and I dated for about 5 years, and I think the Lord looked down at me and said, "What is that boy doing?" And he put this lady next door to me, in the house next door. And my kids would come in and say, "Dad, you have to meet this lady." And I was thinking, oh man, next door, I don't think I want to do that, you know, because most relationships go and then split again. Not very many go and stay together. And I could just picture her boyfriends coming knocking on the door and me having to watch that. But anyway, after Dale and I were married, and she was 8 years younger than I, and she had a child by her first marriage, and I had 3 children by my first marriage. And so she adopted mine, so I thought, well, we're doing good. We've got 4 kids, you know. But after a couple of years, she said, wouldn't you like to have another child? And I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure I do. And one of the things, we were both smoking in those days, and I said, well, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not bringing any children into this world at this point while I'm still smoking. Well, anyway, long story short, we decided to have another child. Well, what was at play there was this. I had seen Dot and Froman model what it's like to have a child when you're in your 40s, early 40s. And I remember this as, there was whispering and giggling attached to Dot getting pregnant at 43. But it was a happy kind of a celebratory, celebration type atmosphere. And here came this little boy Dean that Mama and Daddy Clint just were gaga over, and all the rest of us were too. He was a lot of fun. He was sharp as they come, and it was just an extremely positive experience. And so when I was faced with having another child at 43, I thought, well, you know, Dot and Froman had a good experience, so why won't I? And I must tell you, I have 2 of the most beautiful children who are today 24 and 27. Patrick just had his birthday a couple days ago. So So that was the second big impact on my life, and all those years later, that it came to fruition. And the third thing that she did for me was, I was telling us, when you're on session in a church, at least in the Presbyterian church, you sit on session and new members come through, and part of that getting acquainted process is you tell them how you came to be a Christian and all that, and your story, and they tell their story, and you get to know them a little bit. And I was somewhat frustrated because when it came to me, I mean, other people would say, well, on June 23rd, 1976, thus and so happened to me, and I was saved. And when it come to me, I would say, you know, I can't tell you, because I've always been a Christian in my mind. And the reason is, Mother and Dot, or Mother and Mama, used to grab me by the hand, and my hands would be up in the air because I was just a little guy, if you can imagine me being and they would grab me by the hand and take me to Sunday school and church. And I knew that that was something that I wanted, and Christ was important in my life, and so I would just have to say to the new members, I can't tell you when I became a Christian, but I was very young, and I understood how important Christ was to me. But the thing that Dot did was, she was an elder, and she was a deacon, and she was involved in the church. It seems like all of her life. And I got to my church 20 years ago in Orlando, and I thought, well, I think I'd like to be an elder. I think I'd like to be a deacon. Because they're two different jobs, two different types of jobs. And I think I'd like to start a prayer ministry, and I think I'd like to start a parents' night out ministry, and some other things that I did. And it was because I saw this being done by Dot that I guess it made me think, well, I could do that. And have a positive impact on people around me. So and the other thing about Dot, I'll just quickly say, is she was a lot like my mother. Both of them were not shrinking violets, if you know what I mean. And so when my mother passed away, I loved being around Dot because I could hear my mother in her voice, and I could see her gestures and mother gestures similar. And she just was always a source of pleasure and inspiration for me. So I feel at a loss, just like all of you do, but I also feel really good because I can picture her and Froman being together.
Right.
And her and Mama and Daddy Clint, and her and Mother, and all the rest of the family that's in heaven. So anyway, she just had such a great impact on me, and I love the Johnson family and McWhorter family, and it's always been a big part of my life and a part of my heart to be part of this group, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you.
Thank you.
All right.